total shock. Face screaming in fear fire after months of rumors, whispers, and unanswered questions, Yaman has finally broken his silence. And what he revealed has left fans stunned, the media scrambling, and the internet in complete meltdown. For years, the Turkish heartthrob has been at the center of endless speculation, from his career choices to his love life, with millions waiting for the day he would finally open up. Now, that day has arrived, and nobody could have predicted what he was about to say. The moment came during a highly anticipated interview in Italy, where Can has become a household name and a symbol of charisma and success. Journalists expected him to talk about his projects, his roles, his new look, but instead, he took a deep breath and admitted something far more personal. His voice was steady at first, but it carried an edge of vulnerability rarely seen from the usually confident actor. "There are things I've carried with me for years," he said. "Feelings I never shared, truths I never admitted. But now, I think it's time." The studio fell into silence. Every camera zoomed in, every microphone caught his trembling words. For fans who had followed his journey from Istanbul to Rome, from Turkish television to international stardom, it was the moment they had been waiting for, a rare glimpse behind the mask. Social media erupted instantly. Hashtags like #CanYamanSpeaks, #TotalShock, and #TheTruthShot to the top of trending lists worldwide. Fans filled comment sections with theories. Was he talking about Demet Özdemir, the co-star who had once shared his most iconic love story on screen? Was it about Sarah Bluma, the woman linked to him in countless rumors? Or was it something deeper, something no one had dared to imagine? The intensity of his words was undeniable. Can didn't just sound like a celebrity giving polished answers to polite questions. He sounded like a man who had carried unspoken truths for too long, and who finally felt the need to let them out. His eyes glistened as he paused between sentences, as if every word cost him more strength than the last. One journalist dared to press further. "Can, are you talking about love?" For a brief moment, Can smiled faintly, almost painfully, before replying, "Love is never simple. It stays with you, even when everything else changes. And sometimes, the hardest part is saying out loud what your heart has known all along." The room gasped. The internet exploded. Fans across Turkey, Italy, and beyond were left breathless. To some, it was a confession. To others, it was a goodbye. But whatever it was raw, real, and impossible to ignore. By the end of the interview, one thing was certain: Yaman had finally spoken, and the truth he hinted at was far more powerful than anyone expected. And now, the world waits to see just how far this revelation will go. The shockwaves of Yaman's words spread like wildfire. Within minutes, clips of the interview were circulating on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram, racking up millions of views. Fans who had been starved of any personal confession from Can were suddenly handed a puzzle piece, one that seemed to change everything they thought they knew. What made the moment even more powerful was Can's body language. Experts were quick to point out the subtle signs: the way his hands trembled slightly as he adjusted the microphone, the fleeting smile that masked pain, the long pauses that seemed to carry unsaid emotions. To viewers, this wasn't a rehearsed performance. It was real. It was raw. Italian media outlets wasted no time in seizing the story. Headlines blared across glossy magazines and online portals: Yaman's explosive confession rocks fans worldwide, a love he cannot forget, and the truth behind the silence. Turkish tabloids were equally relentless, dissecting every frame of the interview, every expression, every hesitation, and tying them back to his past. And of course, one name dominated the speculation more than any other: Demet Özdemir. For years, fans have linked Can and Demet in ways that go far beyond their on-screen chemistry. Their legendary partnership in Erkenci Kuş turned them into a cultural phenomenon, and even after the camera stopped rolling, their bond remained one of the most talked-about mysteries in Turkish entertainment. So when Can spoke of love, of carrying unspoken truths, fans immediately connected the dots. Forums lit up with comments like, "He's talking about Demet, I'm sure of it." Others added, "The way his voice cracked, it's the same way hers did when she spoke about him." This is real. But not everyone was convinced. Some fans speculated that his confession could have been about something entirely different. Perhaps the toll of fame, the price of stardom, or the weight of constant public scrutiny. "He's a man under enormous pressure," wrote one analyst. This was less about a woman, and more about the pain of carrying his image like armor. Still, the timing couldn't be ignored. Just weeks earlier, Demet herself had made headlines with an emotional interview where she admitted that certain chapters of her past had never truly closed. Now, with Can echoing similar sentiments, the world was convinced that the confessions were two sides of the same story, a dialogue carried out not face-to-face, but through the media, with millions of fans as witnesses. And then, as if to pour fuel on the fire, Can was spotted the very next day in Rome, looking unusually solemn. Paparazzi photos showed him sitting alone at a cafe, staring at his phone for several minutes, before leaving abruptly with his head bowed. The images went viral, with captions like, "The weight of love" and "What did Demet say to him?" It wasn't just gossip anymore. It was a narrative that pulled fans deeper into the mystery of Can and Demet, a love story that refused to fade. And yet, Can himself remained deliberately vague. His words gave away everything and nothing at the same time, leaving the public both satisfied and desperate for more. One thing, however, became undeniable: Yaman had finally cracked open the door to his heart. And now, the world was holding its breath, waiting to see what, or who, would walk through it. As the world continued to buzz about Yaman's emotional revelation, the spotlight grew brighter, and so did the questions. Everyone wanted to know, was this confession a hint at reconciliation, a plea for closure, or simply a moment of vulnerability from a man who had carried too much for too long? Fans began piecing together timelines, revisiting old interviews, and scouring social media for hidden clues. One fan page resurfaced a clip from years ago in which Can was asked about love and regret. His answer then was cryptic: "Some things are better left unsaid, but that doesn't mean they're forgotten." Now, in the context of his latest confession, those words seemed prophetic. Meanwhile, whispers emerged from behind the scenes. A Turkish entertainment journalist claimed that Can's closest friends had noticed changes in him long before the interview. "He's been quieter, more reflective," the source revealed. "Normally, he's the life of the party. But lately, he's been carrying something heavy inside him." This only added fuel to the fire. Speculation spread that Can's sudden openness wasn't random, it was triggered by something. Many pointed to Demet Özdemir's own recent confession, which had shaken fans just weeks earlier. Her words, "He never stopped being a part of me," were still echoing through the media when Can finally spoke out. To fans, the connection was undeniable. "This isn't a coincidence," one user wrote on Twitter. "She spoke, and now he's answering her." The theory gained so much traction that even mainstream outlets began to report on it. Italian gossip shows debated whether the two stars were communicating indirectly through their interviews, using their confessions as a way of speaking to each other while avoiding the direct chaos of the press. "It's like a love letter written in public," one commentator said. "They're not saying names, but everyone knows who it's about." What made it even more intense was Can's silence after the interview. He didn't clarify his words, didn't post on social media, and didn't attempt to control the narrative. That silence became louder than any denial could have been. If it wasn't about Demet, he would have said so, fans insisted. The fact that he hasn't means we're right. Then came another twist. Paparazzi spotted Demet leaving a recording studio in Istanbul, looking visibly emotional. When asked by reporters if she had heard Can's interview, she smiled faintly but said nothing. That small gesture, a smile without words, was enough to send fans into overdrive. "She heard him. She knows," read one headline. In the midst of the frenzy, Can's vulnerability stood out. For a man known for his strength, confidence, and almost untouchable persona, this was something entirely different. This was not the Yaman of red carpets and magazine covers. This was the Yaman behind closed doors, the man who carried love, regret, and memory in his heart. And that, perhaps, is why the world couldn't look away. Because for the first time in years, Yaman wasn't just a star, he was human. And his humanity was more captivating than any role he had ever played. The impact of Yaman's confession didn't fade with time, it grew louder, reverberating across continents and igniting a storm of speculation unlike anything seen before. Days turned into weeks, yet the conversation showed no signs of slowing down. Fans, journalists, and even fellow celebrities were left asking the same question: what did Can truly mean? While some believed his words were meant to offer closure, others insisted they were a declaration of unfinished love. What complicated matters further was Demet Özdemir's subtle but powerful silence. She didn't rush to deny, didn't dismiss the connection, and didn't attempt to overshadow Can's emotional reveal. Instead, she let the world wonder, and in doing so, fueled the narrative even more. Behind the curtains, however, rumors swirled that the confession had struck deeply at the heart of both stars. A close friend of Can reportedly told a Turkish magazine, "That wasn't just an interview. That was years of emotions breaking free. He didn't plan it, he couldn't hold it back anymore." For many fans, this was the missing piece of the puzzle. Can's revelation wasn't strategic. It was spontaneous, genuine, and raw. Meanwhile, Demet herself was spotted at several events in Istanbul looking visibly emotional, often avoiding questions about Can altogether. In one viral clip, a reporter asked if she had heard his words. Demet paused, smiled softly, and simply replied, "Some things are better felt than explained." That single sentence exploded online, with fans calling it her silent answer to his confession. Italian media, ever hungry for drama, dubbed the saga La Storia Infinita, the never-ending story. TV panels debated endlessly, was this the beginning of a rekindled romance, or the final chapter of a love that never truly died? Psychologists were invited to weigh in, explaining how suppressed emotions often resurface years later, especially when love had been genuine. "This isn't nostalgia," one expert declared. "This is unfinished business." Then came the moment that changed everything once again. At a fan event in Naples, a brave admirer shouted a question directly at Can: "Do you still love her?" The room went silent, the cameras turned, and everyone held their breath. Can froze, visibly shaken by the question. His lips trembled, his eyes glistened, and then, with a deep sigh, he answered, "Some questions don't need answers. The truth is in the heart." The crowd erupted into gasps and applause. Within minutes, the clip was trending worldwide, paired with Demet's earlier confession. Together, their words painted a story too powerful to be ignored. Fans declared this as the ultimate confirmation that whatever had existed between Can and Demet had never truly ended. Edits flooded TikTok, showing their iconic moments side by side with their recent confessions. Memes, quotes, and emotional tributes dominated Instagram and Twitter. The phrase "the truth is in the heart" became a rallying cry for millions who believed in their love story. And yet, what made this saga truly captivating wasn't just the possibility of a reunion. It was the vulnerability of two people who had always been larger than life, finally showing that they were just as human as the rest of us. Can's trembling voice, Demet's silent smile, their unspoken bond, it all reminded fans of something universal: that love leaves a mark no fame, no distance, and no silence can erase. For Yaman, this was more than just a statement. It was a rare glimpse into the man behind the superstar. And for Demet Özdemir, it was proof that some emotions cannot be buried, no matter how much time has passed. As the dust settles, one truth stands above all: their story isn't finished. Whether it leads to reconciliation, to closure, or to an eternal mystery, Can and Demet have carved their names into the hearts of millions. And as long as their silence lingers, so too will the hope, the speculation, and the belief that maybe, just maybe, love never truly dies. Fans around the globe echo the same thought: some truths are too powerful to stay hidden. Some loves are too real to fade. And with that, the legend of Yaman and Demet Özdemir continues, unfinished, unforgettable, and unbreakable.